Go.
And we are live to air for, this is no time for logical thinking.
Rational, you butt nugget.
This is a different day.
You got me. Right.
Well, I don't know what it is. It seems that thinking these days is a bit convoluted. Targeting political dissidents today, the Bundy boys from Bunkerville to Burns. Law versus legal. This is no time for rational thinking. Volume 12, episodes 1 and 2. Litigating Legislated Liberty. So with that, we have today a panel on. We have Laurie, and we have Minor Dave, and I expect another call. And I will also hope for another caller that was out there, one of the militia leaders that was at Bunkerville, so perhaps Jerry DeLemus may call in. He gave me a Roger when I gave him an invite, so in some of the lost lingo, a Roger there could mean acknowledged or not necessarily a confirmation. So today, an ever-apparent regime of totality and rule. It's locked up and locked down by the legislators, as I will call them. Mischaracterized descriptions in the law to illegalize that not used in commerce. It's bastardized words to legal. It's a a mischaracterized status used against you, and that is not lawful. Do the needs of the many outweigh those of the few? Who makes that decision? My life, my choice. As an agent of free will, as agents of free will, our decisions for good is to life or that which is against it. We choose ideas that lead to deadly consequences or joyous rewards. Our destiny lies within ourselves. And turn the page. Then came the time that hacked them rugs thugs, sex sells, and voluntary exchange reigns. Let's hear it for the hooker, the beat of the native drum, chasing the racing run. A facade of referee and ruler, a measure of wealth in place of value. Lend me your hand against that which is devalued. Tell me your stand and how it's hallowed. Lest life in hand is little more than tallow. I predict thoughts shadowed like a roe, hoed and fallowed. In whose name and in whose authority, from which it belongs, obscured in ambiguity. You say it's mine in such surety, tossed to the mix, the cock and bull story. It's hard in its glory, like the Matrix in movies, all guts and gory, bred, fed, and pledged, miscalculated, and minuscule placed hedges. So, and a kind of an outline of this, where we are in time. Where we really are at a point in time where our tipping point in history, it's going to be like asking now, why didn't people stand up against the Nazis? Why didn't people stand up against the Maos and all these Stalins and all these other evil regimes and people that headed them as their figureheads? So today, I've got some. Minor Dave is on. Lori is on, and we're going to talk about now. With Lori, we're going to start out with there's a lot of words that are used that are misrepresented. That we have different meanings in how they stand against us. So what I want to do is I'm going to mute my mic and hand it to Lori and take a pen and paper in hand for notes. So welcome. I'm really glad you can join us. And a reminder, in the second hour, that's when Tom goes on Resurrected Republic, Dirty Uncle Sam. So and I'll have have to be jumping off at that point, and then David's going to come in and kind of centered there in the second hour. And also my friend John, I expect to be calling in. So with that, I'll hand you the mic and take it away, and I'll take some notes.
Awesome. And ask questions if you want to, too, because it's hard to just talk for an hour without people asking questions. But first I want to say I don't practice law. I live my life and I speak truth. And what most people need to know when they're learning this is every single man and woman that was born in this earth was born into this deception. It's spoken about in Revelation. We will all find out about the deception, and a lot of people have known it for years. Some are learning it and just waking up to it. It makes you angry, but remember, even those that have to enforce it have a gun to their head, or, as I told a peace officer last night, remember the story about the king who sat with a sword held by a thread over his head. That's how they live their lives. So they have extreme decisions that they have to make. And when I said this to him, his face just came upon a realization that there is honor among men and women on this earth, that those of us finding out when we have honor and respect for our fellow man will have peace. So those of us that are getting a little antsy and upset and stuff need to calm down and think about what we're doing, really fact check and look at how we're presenting ourselves. When peace officers or judges or lawyers or those that have been elected realize that you're awake, they have a sense of respect and honor if you honor them back. It's a dance that they have to take, and it is very dangerous for everybody involved. It's very dangerous. It does all over go around commerce and jurisdiction. So you have to know who you are. That's the key thing you have to do. Another disclaimer I have to say is there may be atheists listening or Buddhists or Muslims. It's quite okay. The way the world works is on the Christian, Jewish, Muslim way. The three books do go hand in hand if you actually read all three of them. This is how the world has been ruled by religion. It's ecclesiastical. The ecclesiastic has used religion to control man. That might set well with atheists, but wrong with those of the faith. What that means is not heresy. What that means is they have taken the books and they have given you a code of how you can free yourself or you can enslave yourself. It's by consent. It says right in the Constitution, by consent of the governed. And the Constitution is one of the things a lot of people are picking up on, but it also says granted by our Creator. They acknowledged the one true Creator. So if you're running around saying, I'm an infidel, look at the definition of infidel. It's the believer in the one true God. It's not Christian, Muslim, Jew. It's one God that you believe in. This is where there's a lot of crossover in the world when you learn the ecclesiastical side of it, and that the courts are a church. I've actually had this confirmed by a district attorney. The courts are a church. You say prayers to the court. It is one of the moves that they have in court. You start to understand it a little bit better. So when I refer to the Bible or I refer to something of a religious nature, it's because it has the code and it has the way to explain where things came from in law. Now, one of the things you'd asked me to go over was the difference between law and legal. Legal, and somebody needs to mute out. Legal.
Yeah, somebody.
Is,
please.
Yeah.
Who's that, Dave?
Law. I got it. Law is the Ten Commandments. That's basically what law is. It's based on that, and no man can make a law other than that which God has made. Therefore, that is the law of the land. What you see in courts and what you see are constitutions, confederations, treaties, statutes, codes. They have to use another word in order to form legislation for people to ask you to conform to their wishes. This is how they get around that no man may make a law. It's all legal. Legal is a way to undo God's law. It's Encyclopedia Britannica in 1800s has the definition as well as Webster's. that legal is undoing God's law. And basically, you have two sides to our justice system. And I'm using my words loosely here for those of you that know what I'm saying. You have the de facto, which means fake or not real on paper. And then you have the de jure, which is the blood, the living. It's not. It's the spoken word. It's the land. And that's where you get the two. You can go back and hear all the presidents say we're de facto. They're a paper. They don't have life. What that means is way back when, and Santos Bonacci has some good, I'm not promoting anybody, but he has good videos on the three treaties, or the three canons, that the Pope and the Vatican put out way back when, that basically one took your life, one took your land, and one took your soul. What they did was they pulled this through, and the Vatican took over the world. There are treaties, yes. There are treaties when the Spanish came over with Columbus to the Americas. Remember, it's the Spanish that came over, not the English. The Spanish came over with Columbus to the U.S. They already had treaties of what they would do with the savages and who had the lands of the savages, who had what land, and they already had the lands decided who would take control over them.
What are you telling me this for?
So the pardon?
Hold on just a second. And let me, can I stop you for a minute right here? We have Jerry DeLemus called in here. This is,
I'm online. Hang on.
I think he's got some background noise. Let's bring Jerry in for a minute and let him stand in, and can I come back to you? Thanks. Hey, Jerry.
Please.
Hey, how are you? It's
great. All right. I'm really glad you could call in. I met Jerry out in Bunkerville. I stood and observed a lot of folks out there, and Jerry, I way to be a good man. He's been involved in trying to stand up for the freedoms that are been taken and seem to be lost. So with that, welcome, Jerry DeLemus.
Well, thanks. And I think you're right. My fear is that apathy has overtaken our nation. I mean, our education system has been run into the ground and taught socialism versus facts of education, math facts, English facts, history facts, and we've got a couple of generations of it right about now at least, and unfortunately, people don't know what their rights are, don't know much about our history, so they don't even know what they stand or what they're losing.
Let me get you to tell everybody who you are and where you've made this stand for people as far as out in Bunkerville and running for sheriff back home. So tell us all a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm father of five, former Marine. I was out at Bunkerville for about a month, the camp commander at Camp Liberty, and then I did run for sheriff on the constitutional platform. I didn't win the election, but I got the sheriff to start talking about the Constitution and actually to bring me in to help set up a lesson plan to teach the deputies about the Constitution, which is actually what I was aiming to do. My wife is a New Hampshire state legislator. I went out to Oregon. I flew out there for 5 days just prior to LaVoy getting murdered, and I was sitting at my dining room table watching all of this. I know all the players out there and all the Bundys, all of them pretty well, most of the players anyways, and I thought, I've got to see if I can talk them into coming off of that refuge. I didn't think it was a good idea to go onto that refuge. Just publicly, I think the public perception, the way the media was going to play it, they'd lose that argument. And we are in a PR war when in fact we're trying to stand up for liberty, unfortunately. But so I went out there and I talked to Eamon for quite a little while, a couple hours the first time, and he was determined to stay. And then I went out and I went around the community, interviewed a bunch of people, talked to them, saw what their take was. I went to the FBI twice while I was out there at the airport in Burns, tried to get them to use me to negotiate some type of settlement so that they can leave. The people would be able to leave the airport, and wanted the FBI to somehow reach out to them. They were not interested at all. I got stopped a couple times while I was out there with backup in town, and obviously they were very nervous. But I saw what was coming, and I told Eamon clearly there's two ways he was leaving there. I said either in handcuffs or dead, and I said that because of my feeling on how law enforcement was reacting to them and their unwillingness to even want to have any type of negotiations. They already felt, in my perspective, and from my talks with them, that they had a plan in place, that they felt confident they didn't need any outside help, and I think that was because they had an inside guy, I believe Mark McConnell, and maybe others as well, but and they set up an ambush and it ended up costing the life of LaVoy Finicum, and praise God, not the other three in the truck, which was Ryan Bundy, Victoria Sharp, and Shauna Cox. So I mean, that's pretty much my background. I'm a strong supporter of liberty and adamant supporter of liberty, and I was with some of the other 2 million Americans down in 2009 that marched on the White House and the Capitol, and when the big Tea Party march took place down there. But so I've been very active for a long time, and I've seen this coming for decades and tried to warn America of it. And of course, a lot of times you feel like John the Baptist. You're alone, a voice alone, and crying out in the wilderness. That's pretty much my story, I would say.
Now, how would you compare, other than trespassing? See, I feel like with the governor and others involved there, locally, even to the sheriff in Oregon, they set this up to be this basically just an ambush and execution of LaVoy, and then cause the others, including those in the media. Like Jason Patrick and Pete Santilli, to be held without bail, along with others, where they're claiming that they could be a flight risk. I just see this as little more than perhaps misplaced judgment as where to occupy and for how long to do so. That these people and the final four that surrendered yesterday, that they were placed in a position of whether they surrendered their liberties or defended with their life their liberties. And so where is the difference between occupying with the constitutional guaranteed right of bearing arms in protest as a sit-in? How can we escalate to what it has become?
Well, I think if we want to put in comparison what happened with the Bundys is Bundys had their ranch, and law enforcement came in with guns well ahead on them of the Bundys, actually calling in for any support or any help. But I think that law enforcement, or our federal government especially, and they've sent so much money down into the local agencies and the sheriff's department, police departments, in the states, even to the governors, that they have a lot of pull with them. So my concern was because the public perception, and the way it was played by the media is that was a government buildings that they had occupied. And I told Ammon this I was real frank with him, is it'd be better off finding any rancher in that area who had a problem with the BLM or the wildlife refuge and standing there, and then going ahead and go out and they set up the committee of safety in Harney County, which was made up of local Harney County residents, including a veteran fire chief, had been a fire chief for 25 years in Burns, Oregon, and to educate. And that's what they were doing. I mean, actually, they were going out to meet about 200 people. And Victoria Sharp was going to sing along with her mom and her other 9 siblings. And they were going there, and the Grant County Sheriff was there as well. And they were going to go have a talk. And they were growing in support. And I think what happened is that there was fear that the support was growing locally. And people were starting to come out and rally around it and not be afraid of the repercussions from the Bureau of Land Management or local law enforcement. and that they were starting to stand. And if you think of the repercussions about that nationally, if in fact citizens would reclaim federal lands for their states or their counties, that's a lot of property if it started happening in other states and it became a wildfire, if you will. I think that's why the governor panicked as well and came out the way she did. And they try to portray them as terrorists, and they still are actually trying to portray them that way. So and as Eamon said, if they didn't have any firearms, they'd get overrun right away. They weren't doing anything aggressive with their firearms, but we do have the right in America to own a firearm, to possess a firearm, and to be able to defend our lives. And I think that was kind of the point of that Eamon and those out there were trying to make. I hope I
Absolutely.
Your question.
Hey, it's time for that interruption. It is 4:20.
Yes, it is. And a reminder in that which is against this cannabis can. And you have you were in close contact the whole time. Our good friend of mine that you'll remember also, Jerry, Thomas Robert Lockevar Stewart from Resurrect the Republic Truth. They're on Dirty Uncle Sam on Republican Broadcasting Network. And what would you add in there at this point?
For what's going on at the Bundy Ranch or
in Oregon, as far as the where they made this such a humongous lawful action that they took, if mischaracterizing
legal.
the word, where legal. Exactly. I purposely mischaracterized that word because it is the dialectic. So when we look at what actually occurred and now how people are being held without bond, with TiNTfRT being put into psychiatric examination, this will get a good chuckle for some of y'all, for sure. But think of these implications of that a member of a person, another wrong word, that's out there sharing information that is occurring and being then held as a terrorist in the same sense. So this is definitely a war. Here are the voices right now of those speaking up. So when it is asked in the future, why didn't anybody speak up against this regime that is? So go ahead.
Well, here's where I'm going to defend the powers that are there to be versus defend the people. It's lawful versus legal. Now, lawful, you've got God's law. Man shall inherit the earth. No one can own that earth. It's everyone's to use freely. So that's the law of the land. Now, if you go and you lease it or you're granted a right to use it by other mankind and everybody agrees in that area, in your country or in your county, that's an agreement that the people form in that area, kind of a tribal type way, or what we know as the county. County is how our country's set up. The county is supposed to protect your Constitution and that contract with those elected. That's their contract, not yours. Now, legally, they go through and they do codes and statutes and all this other dead paperwork, and they've given themselves authority, and because everyone consented and said, oh, I'm going to go ahead and get my driver's license, oh, I'm going to go ahead and register my kids for school. You're consenting, and you consented, okay, I'm going to pay the BLM for grazing rights. Now, those animals don't know the difference between 1 inch of soil and 1 inch of grass. They just know that the land is theirs. So you've got this crazy fight going on with those of us that have this legal mindset or lawful mindset that the animals don't even understand. Okay, that's the first one. So they've come in, the BLM or the federal government, all of them, they have this legal right that they've granted themselves through all this legislation, codes, statutes, whatever you want to call it. There's thousands and millions of pieces of legislation that everybody breaks the law just by talking. Unless you know your jurisdiction and who you are. These people do not know who they are. And I'm not Pete Santilli, and I'm going to apologize for it right now because I'm going to speak truth. Pete Santilli does not know who he is in law or in legal sense, either one. He refuses to know who he is. He does not know how to talk to the jury. He does not know how to talk to the judge. He does not know how to talk to an attorney. In fact, he's asked for an attorney, which means you're incompetent and can't talk for yourself. So he's already claimed his incompetence by getting that attorney. First thing they did was go to the Rutherford Institute for the attorneys. I'm incompetent. I can't defend myself. So he's already told them he's got a mental problem. He's incompetent. So this is what these people are looking at and saying, okay, this man's already told us he's incompetent. Then he's done all these crazy things by our codes and statutes. He's falling into the legal route, and he did it to himself. And people have told this to Pete. He didn't listen, and he decided to go in as an incompetent. I once heard Nancy Pelosi say at a cocktail party that was on YouTube, oh, I'm a conservator for the American people, and I'm like, oh, heck, no, you're not. Well, you know what? She was right. She was telling the truth. These people don't lie. But what you have to do, and Jason Hoyt's a good guy that writes a lot. I'd like for you guys to check him out. He did a video yesterday about find out the why. People are making you angry. People are saying things but they don't have the words for it, but you're not finding out the why. And the why of the whole situation of what's going on is we don't know who we are, we don't know history, and we don't know how to go up honorably. Remember, we were all born into it. We don't know how to go up honorably before a judge, a peace officer, or anyone and say, X, Y, and Z, this is where I stand. If you've seen videos of people not having driver's license, and they don't get away with it, they know who they are, and most peace officers know you don't have to have one. But you have to know who you are, okay? If you don't know who you are, then you have to have one. You're incompetent. You are part of the legal system. It's a very peculiar predicament that we're all in. We have to learn how to use our words, and I'm the worst at using my words. I mean, the area where I'm at, I've used words in the most irrational way ever. I'm learning, just like everyone else. I'm just a mom. I don't practice law. I study and speak truth. So what's happening up in with Bunkerville, with Malheur Refuge or Burns, Oregon, is that these people know the two differences. And the FBI and the government is so afraid. We can't be men and women anymore and sit down at the table and say, okay, we were all born into this deception. How do we get out of it? How do we go ahead and manage those that can't manage their own affairs? Because a lot of people really don't know who they are, and we're so dumbed down, can't understand the concept. There's not many people I can talk to that understand me. They are in need of a conservator. So when you have a society that can't change on a dime, the federal government is in fear because you have all the militias and all these people saying, oh, we're going to go take up blah, blah, blah. No, that's the wrong way to take it. We need to sit down and say, here's the deception. What do we do, county by county, and clean it up? That's what they're doing in the UK. That's what they're doing in the Eastern European countries. This system is not just in the U.S. It is worldwide. I've talked to a friend in Hungary. The same thing that happened in the 1930s here happened in Hungary the same way with the Federal Reserve takeover. Step by step, they've done this in every single country. And people don't understand that they have taken over your body, your land. They have sold it to each other. They sell you. You are considered dead to them until you tell them you're alive. At the age of 7 is the age of reason. You should reasonably understand you're alive, but you never go up to a judge or you never put in paperwork to the court saying, I'm alive, the blood flows, the body lives. People don't do that because it's silly to us. They've made it seem silly when you speak truth. It's called Seska v. Trust. You've got to learn that they brought it into the Bretton Woods Act. You've got to realize that you are dead to them. When Obama flew over that Tea Party, I think somebody on the call went to the Tea Party deal where there were like 5 million people there. Obama said he flew over and he didn't see anybody. Well, you know what? I'm going to pick up for Obama here. He didn't lie. You can't see ghosts, and you can't see dead people because everyone there didn't know they were alive and had not gone to the government and said, I'm alive, I'm one of the people. They're all 14th Amendment citizens dead to the system. You need a conservator. Dead men tell no tales. They can't speak or be heard. That's why they've got Ammon, and he can't speak to the court. He's dead to them. Dead men tell no tales. He can't go before them and speak because they don't know he's alive. I mean, does this make sense to anyone?
No.
I'll say that.
And as I come back to the unmute button, absolutely. And let me go back to Jerry. Hold on with us, Ann. As far as political dissidents being targeted, those people that have been involved, we see they're going back and collecting up some folks that were at Burns. And Jerry, what can you expect to happen, even possibly going back to Bunkerville? Do you see any?
There's rumor out there. I mean, I've seen some posts on it, and I don't have any verification, but there's anywhere between 68 and 86 warrants that are out there, and they haven't released any of the names on them. If in fact they are really warrants out there, and they won't until they serve those warrants. So, and it says it's going back from Bunkerville all the way up to the Burns, Oregon event we just are going through now, and it includes the mines, where there were a number of mines that Oath Keepers and others were out there supporting the miners. So, I mean, that could be a pretty wide net. My thought is that the federal government certainly doesn't want anybody having the courage to be able to stand up against them, even in a peaceful fashion. And so they'll want to rope in as many people as they can. They're gonna cast a wide net.
Okay, stand by, Dave.
I can make him alive.
Okay,
I can make him alive.
Stand by for a minute, Dave, and then also we have my friend John from Vegas on the line too, and we're going to talk about some more targeting. So, Jerry, let me hand you back the mic here, and then if you care to hold on, you're welcome to come back in as well. We'll hand the mic to Dave for a minute, and then we'll come to John, and then back to Ann.
So if you're back on to me, I believe the federal government wants to cast that wide net to go ahead and bring in as many of the, especially the leadership, anybody they deem to be leadership in the movement to in fact reclaim our rights as citizens and as free citizens, and anybody who's got.
I got to correct you real quick.
I know you're going to. I knew that was coming, but hang on. Let me finish, because we're actually talking to a lot of people who don't understand all of what you're saying, and I've got a lot of friends who are involved in that as well. And it's not that you're incorrect, but the problem is people don't even know about what happened at Burns. So, and then my fear is that a lot of times people get overloaded and their eyes roll back in their head, and then they just shut off because it's information overload for them.
Too much.
So, my wife and I read the Geneva Bible in the Old English. I don't read it when we have people over typically because it's too much for them. So I go to like the New King James, so that in fact it's easier consumed, if you will. They'll have a better grasp of it. And American people really have been de-educated and indoctrinated, and we need to really re-educate them as much as possible. But we don't have much time. I mean, I don't believe that we have the time to do all that's necessary, and my fear is that we have to be more reactionary in our actions, and which isn't a good place to be, and because we're always chasing the move. My concern with them bringing in a lot of the leadership that have stood up in the last several years is, and also with Pete Santelli as well. And I'm not a monstrous Pete Santelli fan. I like him all right, but I'm not like a follower. And my concern is that they're trying to scare everybody back into the shadows, so that people, even in the media, will be afraid to raise their voices. You can certainly spot the media that in fact is owned by the government by the way they cover or lack of coverage, or even the way they verbalize the events that have been taking place. If you think of a Black Lives Matter group where there was that black guy kid in Ferguson who had robbed a store, went after a policeman and his firearm, punching the police officer, then he got shot by the police officer. Congress, they stood in Congress with their hands up, raising their hands. And now you flip ahead to LaVoy Finicum on video, being shot with his hands up. Nothing. The media doesn't cover it. They've got access to those videos. I mean, it's on YouTube everywhere. Do they show it? No, they don't. And the reality is that the media is complicit in it. And America we're really on our own as citizens to stand up for our freedoms. But if they remove the head of most of the liberty leadership, who's going to stand up next? That's the big question. If, in fact, they jail all of them, they come and haul me in, who's going to stand up next? Who is going to not be just the ones on the keyboard, but who are going to be the ones who actually stand on the line? And because what they're doing is they're taking all the line officers off. That's what they're doing. And, I mean, Obama's done it through our military.
I got an answer to that. Because I want to tell people that are in fear. I stood down with our school district, and about 20 stood up in my place. So where they take me down,
I stood out where there were guns pointed at you, and had very few around us. So maybe you ought to talk to that school board that you were at and get those people to maybe even come out a little bit further. And because what I see is a lot of apathy in America, and it's sad, and it obviously it takes a long time for people to catch up. I mean, even General John Stark, the most famous general to me in the Revolutionary War from New Hampshire, the one who gave us live free or die, death is not the worst of evil, which is our state motto, the live free or die part, is his brother was a Tory. And we've got to realize that we're not going to have a whole lot of allies in this. It'll be a minority, but that minority's got to stick together and got to unite, in fact, and help to protect what freedom we have left and gather up the rest that we've lost. Or, I mean, where is freedom going to be in the world? If America's lamp of freedom goes out, there's no other. There is no other.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Can I comment?
Yeah, real quick, just a second, David. We need to look where we stand together, because we're pointing out everybody's flaws in their plan, and we miss where it is that we're all in this together. Real quick response, and then Dave, and then I want to come back with Ann, because I'm pretty sure she has to go over for Tom coming up, Resurrected Republic.
I can stay if you need me to.
Okay, you're welcome. Awesome. You're welcome to stay. So we'll just continue if y'all are okay for the next 20 minutes of this hour, and we've got another hour following. So if everybody is good with sticking, we'll just go ahead and pass the mic on over to Minor Dave, and we'll come back around. We'll see we'll see where Flash would like to play.
I want to talk about truth. It's called fiduciary duties of a trustee. What we have here is we have land managers that they're called general trustees because they're agencies. And we have three trusts here. The dominant one is the mineral estate. And I've been coordinating as a mining district with the Inspector General's office of the Department of Interior. And they've opened an investigation with the Bureau of Investigation of the Department of Interior. I've talked to the lead investigator, and I've explained to him my trust, and I've explained it to him really good. And then I went to a commissioners meeting on Wednesday, and they were putting out a government-to-government coordination. Fortunately for me, that was a pure luck for me, because when I went in there, I was asking them to coordinate with me to get a trustee appointed to the valuable mineral estate. Then I mentioned that in 1946, when they formed the BLM was formed to manage all the mineral estate, wherever they lie, to the trust. But they never appointed a trustee a specifically named one. So that's what's being investigated now. The ranchers are supposed to have one. And the deal with the money they supposedly owe the BLM, well, they don't owe it to the BLM. That was a straight-through pass-through to the county in lieu of property taxes. The BLM's not even to get 1 cent of it because they get funded by Congress to manage the lands, and that's part of managing the land is managing that trust according to the evidence of the grant. Now, they agreed to pay $2.50 because that was going to go to the county in lieu. Well, so there's nobody to pay because if you give it to the forest, the BLM, they just steal it. So you can't allow that. So if you do that, if you feel you're obligated to pay that $250, you put it in a trust. And you put the conditions in that trust is until the BLM agrees to pass it 100% through, they don't get it. And as long as it's in a master trust waiting to be paid on the conditions of the trust, he isn't a deadbeat. He's got a bond out. If you got a bond out, basically you put the money into an escrow account, and you put the terms and the conditions of it that it'll pay it when they honor this trust over here for the sums. And meanwhile, it can build up interest while it's doing that. So if they try to raise fees and fines and stuff, it just grows that fund even bigger by getting interest so that it kind of keeps up with what would happen when it finally has to be paid. But then we got the ONC Lands Trust. And it used to be a railroad trust, and the railroad got every other section to put in a railroad and develop every other section for development. Well, they didn't develop all their land, so they reverted back to the federal government, and the counties and the states said, hey, hold on a second. That's taking all that land back into the federal government. Federal government doesn't pay taxes, and we were getting property taxes on those. Now you're taking away our property taxes. That's where the ranchers agreed to pay. And that's where they agreed to give the ONC Trust the money to. So I'm asking, we're demanding with the county council, we're demanding that we get coordination from government to government to appoint the trustees.
Yes, you know what? The people are there's a lot of distracted noise back there. Sorry about that. A lot of people are being targeted and in different manners.
This will lead the BLM being held in a breach of trust, failing to have a trustee to defend the grant.
You bet. Hold the meat of that for me, Dave. I neglected John. He's been waiting. Yeah, let me come back to you. John.
Hello, Vince. How are you?
Good, brother. You remember Jerry?
I do, Jerry. And, Vince, I want to say I appreciate Jerry and Ann coming. It's been very educational. I really enjoyed listening. And, Jerry, I met you up there, and I spent some time up there, and I was, went on the whole time because I was really unaware of it. The whole situation was going on like everybody else. I was running my own life and sick, and you were one of the guys that really had a big impact on me to wake me up, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for taking the time with Vince today and doing an awesome interview. You there,
absolutely. Vince? Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much.
And Ann was very great, and I appreciated Ann. It was awesome. Thank you.
I'm
having. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to add in and as far as how you perceive the perhaps targeting and tracking down of people that took a stand in the gap in between, tyranny and their path of destruction. Would you like to?
I would, because I feel I've been really extremely attacked there in Las Vegas, in Clark County. And I come here, to Clark County 15 years ago as an entrepreneurial and small businessman, and with good intentions, and I always did good, but unfortunately I become very sick with different ailments and heart disease, and things escalated. But, we've been doing well, and me and my wife and everything, the whole family contribute to the society, help covering any problems. And unfortunately, with my activity up there, which was basically, protesting and holding a sign in my hand, and spending some time, and I spent a lot of time with Vince up there, and someone made an anonymous complaint because they didn't like me, and the teacher was able to hand over my daughter to be drug off by a 7-year-old girl, to be drug off by CPS without ever notifying me for anything. And, they'd like to tell you if you went or, you have a problem with anything, they call you with the school nurse. But in the line of questioning for me, and I really have, I was a good citizen. I worked, and I never had a arrest record at all, juvenile or anything. I had no arrest record or anything. And the line of questioning on her it just freaked us all out as a family and her. And this all happened in October. They were asking her about how anti-government and who do I want to hurt and blow things up. And, we run a Christian family, and we try to, and business-wise, and we just don't talk like that. And those things don't happen in the home. So everything went good, as far as getting her out of there. I wanted not to escalate with anything with her without having any trauma or anything. So this happened in October, so we kept it quiet. But just with things escalating around and we might think the complainant is things, things might have escalated and now she's being reminded about things being broken in the door and these questions, and she started having some nightmares. I was forced to pull her out of school on Monday of this week. It's been hard because I'm sick and I got another disease, sickness on top of it. And I'm not prepared. It was by surprise because I had to pull her out because she didn't feel safe no more. It was an issue with having trauma. I only found out about this the following Friday. I know this happened in October, but, I was keeping it Friday. It didn't happen and nothing was trauma, and I only found out about it. That's why from October until this present time, I was keeping it quiet. But now I'm so exposed, we need some help here because I wanted my wife to actually, not sign her out. Because like Ann says, I got myself into this situation because I wanted her never to be there because I wanted to homeschool last year. I got him enrolled in the Ron Paul homeschool curriculum. He's 15, and it's just incredible. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I learned so much by listening on it. So that was great. I was going to put her in a different homeschool curriculum, and there was kind of an incentive from Nevada where they were trying to keep people in to pay them off a certain amount to get them out to sign out and, use that money wherever they want for a school program. So my wife, wanted to sign up to do it, so I compromised. So I got myself into the situation. This is like you hand over all the control to the school, and with a line of question like that and what it caused, and it's important for any little girl and as to see a man as a good role model, and that's all I strive to do. So it hurts, and that's all you strive to do, and it hits home, and it actually causes a lot of stress and things with the wife and family. But everything's worked out because we're strong and we're getting through it. And we got through it. And she's doing good. It was minimum. And she's, as soon as we pulled out, she's doing fine. That's all I got to say. And that's how it affected me.
John, we got you. John, you're a good friend. I really appreciate you coming on. We got to know each other really well out in Nevada. You took me into your home. We've been in constant contact these past 2 years. Yeah,
I didn't really get into the line of questioning that they gave her because she was next door in her room, but it was pretty extreme.
Well, if you'd like to,
and all I can say is they want to, there's people in the past and they blew up, they did all these things, and that guy in Colorado, they could not have that line of questioning without a lawyer present. And there's a guy that never did nothing but pay into the system and try to be a model citizen, and have that line of questioning on your daughter. Do it to me.
Well, it just goes to show whether you're standing in under or above that which is against us. It doesn't matter. We're all subjected to the same tyranny. And by trying to divide ourselves or have others define us and divide us further, it just tears apart that truth.
Oh, I think everybody's affected by the same tyranny equally. I'm not trying to say it's terrible for everyone. If you hand over your rights, like Ann said.
Right. Dave, would you like to come back in? Wait a minute. I keep forgetting Flash. Flash, would you like to interject, please?
You're not going to like it.
Well, I knew I wouldn't, and others might not neither. So, do we need to have a strong language caution?
No, just a strange outlook caution. But
okay, good.
I find it ridiculous. Yeah, I realize society has to play their little charades, but I find it ridiculous to depend on another person to tell me what my rights are. because I can't be trusted. So I choose not to participate at every opportunity.
That makes sense.
Well, it's hopeless, but for the most part, I stay out of it.
Can I interject?
And where we can engage and resist, I think is also a good idea. Go ahead. Yeah.
I agree with him because that's exactly what I did with my son in school. I did not consent. I took consent back. I did not register him the last 4 years of school. And the day he turned 18, and they've been sending the registration papers home almost weekly, I registered him. I did not register him, sign the policies. I had a principal sign the policies in front of me, and I took the paper and tore it up in front of him. You have to stand up.
Yeah.
And both the gentlemen that just spoke talked about what it is. It's commerce. It's financial. They want your children based on money. And you're not a citizen. We're the people. We're souls. So I wish people quit using that word. But the thing of it is, finding common ground, both those issues were related with the children and with the land. This is what these people are trying to do. Don't consent. Don't sign their paperwork. Tell them no, respectfully and with honor, and explain to them why you're saying no. That's the only way we're going to take it back. It really is. You've got your first sentence before you have your second.
In jail. That's what I did when I got 30 days in jail.
Tell us that. Yeah, go ahead. Let's give Dave some time. Hey, a reminder. I'm grabbing up this link right now on reallibertymedia.com for Channel 12 Republican Broadcasting coming up at the top of the next hour. My good friend Tom's coming up with Resurrected Republic. So you'll be able to find that in archive as well. Just for this one going downstream, I just want to make sure to give a big shout out to Tom, good friend. He took me in out there as well into his motorhome out there and allowed me for interviews out of the wind. So that was a really great experience.
Oh, is that Tom from on the line there?
Yeah. No, this is Anna's his friend. He's listening right now. So he's coming up, guy.
Tom.
Yeah, great guy. Huh?
Tom would know me with my son Richard, right? He remembers.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so Dave, go ahead and let's hear some of where you just.
Well,